All right, so we'll get started now with the webinar. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining today. My name is Erica, and I'm the Customer Success Manager at LEXALYTICS. And joining us today is co-founder and head of data sciences at VOZIQ, Dr. Vasudeva Akula. He is one of our longtime clients and uses our text analytics engine on the underlying VOZIQ platform. He's helped create and manage strategy for clients in establishing voice of the customer-based business performance improvement programs, and in his 20 years career spanning in various industries such as banking, financial services, insurance, retail, technology, telecom and wireless, and utility industries. So he's played key roles in helping Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies successfully deploy and realize significant ROI out of contact center performance optimization solutions. So without further ado, I will now pass the floor over to Vasu.
All right. Thank you, Erica, for all the background, and good afternoon, everyone listening. I'm truly excited to share with you all on how we partnered with LEXALYTICS using the text analytics technology over the years and helping many of our customers tackle problems like reducing customer churn, but many other customer experience problems. So today, I'm going to specifically focus on reducing customer churn, but not just talk about reducing customer churn, but compare this text analytics approach with the traditional approaches and give you some ideas, one or two takeaways that you can take back and either implement yourself or consult with either LEXALYTICS or VOZIQ in doing this churn reduction problem 2x faster using text analytics as the secret sauce. All right, so with that, I'll jump right in. So before we talk about how to do this, solve this problem 2x faster, if we take a minute and inspect how typical implementations of churn reduction work and how these predictive models work, you notice that many of these solutions, I'm talking about 80%, 90% of the implementations for churn reduction implemented by marketing teams, and they have a lot of data, sales and marketing data in terms of where the customer lives and what they purchased, how long they purchased, their age groups, demographics. All of this goes into these so-called predictive models to predict the likelihood of customer churning at 2 years, 3 years, or all these terms, right? So now if we kind of closely look at it, all of this is static data. Where I live and my age group and how much I pay generally doesn't change month to month, right? It's all generally static in nature. And it also doesn't include needs and feelings and wants and wishes of the customer. After the purchase of the, let's say if we use a telephone, after the purchase of the telephone 2 years ago, am I really happy or not with the phone? That information is not typically held by the sales team, right? Or the marketing team who originally acquired this particular customer. So as a result, we end up with detecting the propensity to churn signal a little late and create loyalty problems. So while many of these systems work, there are ways in which we can certainly improve on top of it. So now how do we do this? So if we kind of think about it, everything that I mentioned that goes into a typical customer churn model is identified on the left side, and we are talking about product data, billing data, geographic data, tenure data, how much they pay us data, all of this data. And then, this is our takeaway number one for this webinar. On the right side, if you look at it, customers are calling into the call center and they talk about their issues. Hey, I purchased this product and the speed is not good. Or I purchased this product and it is, the memory is not good, or the price plans is not really what I thought it is. Or I'm having issues, configuring this email. All these problems they're having with their purchase, they typically flow into the call center. And call center, by design, most of the call centers, the way they work, customer calls the call center, agent, provides all the answers, And at the end of the call, they have a requirement to notate, what the issue was and what the resolution was, right? And it's typically in text format, unstructured format. And, so far, at least in the last, 5, 10, plus years ago, it was difficult to mine. But with advances in technology and, leaders like LEXALYTICS coming in and solving these problems, it's now becoming a untapped data source that many companies are realizing that, hey, I can actually understand our customers far better than how I would understand our customers if I were to do some surveys. And by going into call centers, they're accumulating this data on a very, very large scale. Compare that with survey. But in our, specific problem about churn reduction, we're talking about taking the needs and feelings and wants and wishes of the customer from call center, plug that, one piece that I showed as the missing piece in the sales and marketing data. And now we could be developing a model that works as well as the models that are currently deployed 80–90% of the time in the world using sales and marketing. But by adding this additional layer, we have certain advantages of detecting the signal sooner. And I'm also going to, think about, provide some ideas about how we can operationalize this whole thing, right? But point number one, look at text analytics and look at your contact center as a data source for text analytics, okay? With that as the background, we just talked about, what's the problem today in terms of customer churn reduction, and where can we find additional data to speed up certain things, right? I'll jump right into the demo, show you how this could be done in a realistic situation, and then I come back with how to operationalize this whole thing. All right? Let me switch my screens and get to an application. All right. So what we are looking at is the VOZIQ application. I just logged in already. This is what we are looking at is a telecom scenario as an example. And just for illustration purpose, I have one customer who called many times, March 16, March 18, 19, 21, all the way to 30. And what he's saying is, customer upset with billing. These are typical examples of a call center agent notations at the end of the call, right? They're like a line, 2 lines, not very, very long details. But when you look at these things, a million, if you have 1 million customers, they could be calling, 2, 3, 4 million times in a year. And that's how much volume we're talking about, unlike any survey, right? And if we closely look at this, someone is talking about billing and someone is also upset, right? While this, textual format is difficult for a machine to analyze and kind of create, churn, likely to churn scores and things like that, I'll talk about how we construct all of this into structured format and, use that as input to the prediction models. But let's kind of inspect this for a minute. They're talking about billing and they're upset. They're also talking about high bill. They're talking about data usage and things like that, and they're being transferred to billing team, okay? Then on the next call, a couple of days later, again, he's complaining about being charged for services never used, wants immediate resolution, again being transferred, okay? Now he gives, little more details, LTE services, again being transferred. Now he's talking about refund status here, right? He complains, billing cycle probably kicked in from the background, and then he got an incorrect bill while he's actually kind of trying to solve that problem, right? Again calls refund status, and to the point of, he wants to now cancel, right? So little, details in terms of, what is really happening for this one particular customer, right? But when you have 1 million customers, 2 million customers, 5 million customers, how do we really understand all of this? And how do we, make use for this? The answer to that from VOZIQ point of view is take all of this text and using LEXALYTICS technology, using text analytics technology, we converted all of this into what we call topics. So this is step number 1. We take all this unstructured data, look for these keywords, bill, billing, all these things, or refund, refunds, and various forms of refunds, and we convert this unstructured data coming from agent nodes into topics that we can understand what the customer is trying to accomplish, right? So after having, this customer calling 4 or 5 times, when he calls 6th time, we know that he's actually calling for, billing, whether we want to change that, use that information for some proactive service for him while he's in the IVR, or we, hijack that call and, provide the right agent, first time. We can do those types of things. But in this case, what we are talking about is let's fully understand what the customer is calling about, right? So I'll take a minute to explain the detail in this particular diagram. We call this our customer intent graph, right? What this customer intent graph is saying is this particular customer is trying to do something about billing, and all these lines that we have floating from that one topic into, let's say, refund or dissatisfaction or no response, or all the way to the top side, which is delay. These are things that we just reviewed. So this customer intent graph takes all these notations, and customer by customer, it accumulates all this information that is happening in call centers every single day and converts that into, this is what this customer is trying to do, and actually gives relationships between what's causing what. In this case, refund is causing dissatisfaction, and in fact, dissatisfaction is caused by many issues. It's about billing, it's about the delay, it's about he's asking for refunds, and there is a line that is connecting into no response, right? All of this is what is causing dissatisfaction. So we understand two things with this customer intent graph. What is it the customer is trying to do, and what is the root cause of certain key items like satisfaction, or what is the root cause for why he's asking for refund, right? So we get answers to these things. So this is second takeaway I want to leave the audience with. Looking at call centers and using text analytics helps us understand root causes of certain things, and we can apply this information in various scenarios. So I'll go straight into our problem again. Let's go back into churn reduction and talk about how we reduce churn 2x faster. So now what I have is a little dashboard. This is again created for a telecom demo scenario, and what I have here is again in our pieces of puzzle that we reviewed earlier, sales and marketing data. Let's kind of combine all of this and call it customer identity. Who's this customer? What product they purchase? Is it a prepaid, postpaid? I kept it very, very simple, and their age group. Let's say younger demographic, middle-aged demographic, older demographic, or where they live. Certain states may have higher propensity to churn. Certain age groups may have higher propensity to churn. Certain product lines may have higher propensity to churn, right? So as illustration, that's basically how the churn models are working today, right? And to that, we add what we call customer intent data, which is coming from the call centers we just reviewed, right? So some of this, in fact, could also be coming from the IVR. So as an illustration here, I have an example to say that a customer is calling, and all these IVRs using, whether it is natural language technology or push button technology, press 1 for billing or say billing, something like that, right? So all of that goes into the logs, and that is also capturing customer intent if you kind of think about it, right? So we bring that customer intent from the IVR. What is Mr. Customer trying to accomplish coming from the IVR, actually using his own actions on the IVR. And then what we have in the form of word clouds is what is our agents saying about the primary reasons for the call. Again, taken from text analytics data sources, converted using natural language processing into nicely organized keyword categories. And they can be defined by industry. Healthcare may have certain main reasons for customers to contact, and telco may have completely different thing, and a research company may have a completely different set of keywords or call reasons that they're trying to capture, right? So by combining this and this, we have even better data than what we could actually find just by looking at keywords only, right? All of this is helping us understand customer intent. Now, so when we combine this customer identity, which is traditional model, with customer intent, we obviously have a leg up in terms of being able to do something targeted for that one customer, because that's exactly what he's trying to do, right? He's upset about refund, or he's not getting the service, or he's complaining about, comparing, this price plan with some other price plan. So we understand that he might be rate shopping, and the offer to him is not a fancier equipment. Maybe the offer to him is a discounted, price plan, right? So we get, that advantage by, using customer intent for developing predictive models, right? But we actually take this one step forward. Since we are anyway operating in a customer, call center, right? We have additional factors that contribute to churn. So if a customer is being transferred, like the example that I showed numerous times, he's actually, putting a lot of effort in getting resolution for his issues, and that leads to a little higher percentage of churn. So as an example, now we look at here FCR, which is first call resolution. So if the customer is calling multiple times, like again the example that we reviewed, he's putting more effort into that, and as a result, he's more inclined to cancel, right? Or the same thing happens if he's putting long times, whether he's talking or kept on hold and all these things. If the call durations increase beyond the normal 5 minutes into 15, 20 longer durations, that also raises the customer effort, and high customer effort translates into poor loyalty and high churn and all these things, right? And then to top it off, we also bring customer sentiment with all of the data that we are anyway sitting on, right? And the customer sentiment, again, just like the effort, can be discovered numerous ways. First and foremost, we can discover that using natural language processing technologies. Here, LEXALYTICS comes into play, and just by reading, upset customer calling about billing, things like that, LEXALYTICS has the ability to score that as a negative call, right? So we use that signal whenever we can. But in case you are running net promoter score surveys or satisfaction surveys or post-call surveys, how did we do? Tell us, on a scale of 1 to 5. And if customers are answering, we take that value, that data at face value, and we also kind of remember, okay, this customer, last time when we did the survey, he gave us a poor score. He's an upset customer. Or last time we did the survey, he gave, fantastic score. There's no risk with this customer, right? In some call centers, there is complaints process, escalation process, and we use that data. And finally, for large scale operation, we also use, again, keyword category examples that I showed, upset, frustrated, not happy, all these keywords notated by agents in the call center to understand what is the sentiment. Now, if you come back and look at the whole picture, what we have is the traditional model, right? Traditional data sources, right? Sales and marketing, where the customer lives and what he purchased and how old and so on and so forth. And then we just added layers and layers of information coming at very large scale from call centers. It's the IVR data integrated, it's the call center integrated, all of that converted into intent, discovering the customer intent, and then adding a layer of customer effort and adding a layer of customer sentiment. Now, obviously, by adding these additional layers, we have more to gain, right? So that's the way I wanted to, kind of leave this as the takeaway for the audience. By going into the call centers, we have additional information to build better models, okay? So with that, let's come back into, now we have a better model, how does this whole thing work in a live scenario? Let's kind of, recap this whole thing we just talked about. So let's say, the customer is calling and an agent is answering on the left side, right? And we have call center notes we just talked about. And all of this is going into the, CRM data source systems. So we have transactional and demographic data, which is what we have been calling traditional data. You combine all of this and, move from VOZIQ point of view, we move all of this data into the cloud. So technically the software is already running there minus the data. So the moment we plug this data, it knows how to understand the sentiment. It knows how to categorize this into topics. It knows how to integrate, these, customer data and agent data and all these things, and starts predicting. Okay, this customer, I see that he called 8 times and he said, competition name in the third from last call, and I know that, he's actually on the way to churn, right? So earlier we talked about, discovering the churn signals late. Now we are talking about, discovering that churn signal as it is building up, call by call, right? This is no longer static now, right? So bottom line, point number 3 that we see, prediction is happening quicker and faster, and spits out a score at the end of the day. This customer is not happy and he's ready to churn and all these things. Now the beauty of this thing, and this is kind of, it has a lot of implications in implementation. One of the problems that our marketing team, after developing a wonderful churn model, is how to contact the customer. We could actually send 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 offers, and you and I all got these offers. Many times it just goes straight into trash, right? I don't open the marketing offer, right? So contacting customers after doing these predictions is also a challenge. And this is my takeaway number 2. So by going into the call center, first of all, we have the same prediction score or a better prediction score and a sooner prediction score. But we are now talking about, a customer is already talking, he's on the phone, and I already have the score, and we haven't delivered this call yet to an agent, right? The IVR can actually detect that I'm talking, I have an unhappy customer online, right? And now it allows us to do, various things. I can hijack the call and, know that, I'm talking to an unhappy customer, and I hijack the call to the best employee who is fully equipped to deliver these offers. And by doing this over and over for every single call, every time a customer calls, I dramatically increase the contact rate to be able to deliver my offer. So we just talked about a better model and a better contact, right? When you sum up all these things, it certainly works exactly like the old model. If you want to use the sales and marketing demographic data and send marketing campaigns outside, all of that happens in parallel. And now we add a layer of additional intelligence to identify the risk scores as they develop. And we also add a layer of contact as customers contact. So by adding 1 + 1 + 1, you have the power of really reducing churn 2x faster. So those are my takeaways in terms of like how can we use text analytics to do churn reduction 2x faster, right? So so with that, I'm ready to recap. Hope many of these things are opportunities that you can take back to your teams and think about implementations. And if you need any help, feel free to contact either LEXALYTICS or VOZIQ. But before we close the webinar, I just want to kind of recap what we just discussed. What we discussed is leverage text analytics, and leverage text analytics primarily in the call center where there is volumes of customer intent being notated, and the technology has advanced to the point of making it so easy to discover what each of your individual customers are in need of, right? So diagnose using text analytics and understand if your customers are happy, how much effort they're putting and all these things, and start applying predictive.
I'm not sure I understand.
Start applying predictive algorithms to implement solutions like the customer churn problem that we just talked about, right? So that's the gist of what we just talked about on that particular churn reduction problem. But if we kind of think about it, step back and think about it, we just talked about a way to take advantage of the data that we all businesses have, right? In the form of call centers, right? And notations that happen in the call centers, and how valuable that can be in truly understanding your customers. And we applied that on a problem called reducing customer churn. But by the way, that exact same data, exact same process, exact same technology can also help us improve your net promoter scores. It can also help improve your first call resolution rates, since you are deploying this technology anyway in call centers. And by reducing, improving first call resolution rate or reducing repeat calls, you're actually cutting cost. And because this data can be delivered immediately to IVRs, we can optimize our IVRs and again reduce cost, right? And the opposite effect of reducing churn, we can actually twist this thing into predicting likely sales and actually improve our sales rate also. So whatever your problem might be, whether that is customer retention or customer experience, cost reduction, revenue improvement, the same idea can actually work. So think about various ways of taking advantage of these advanced technologies, and think about your call center as a as a data source and think about your text analytics as a way to mine it and solve various problems you may have.